The next question, starting with Mr. Schuler. We are all struggling with the rise of fuel and energy costs. How would you make Ohio a leader in energy efficiency?
Well, it's very important for the state of Ohio as far as job growth and increasing industry, bringing more businesses into the state, that we have affordable, reliable energy. And we're very fortunate in Ohio. Even with these tremendous increases, we're lower than most other states, but we have to keep it that way. And we also have a large reliance on other states, other countries for our energy, and we need to turn that around. For example, natural gas, only 11% of it comes from Ohio. Very, very little of our oil and our gasoline comes from Ohio. So what the legislature is working on, what we need to continue to work on, is increased ethanol plants, burning the corn that's grown right here in Ohio. Biodiesel, burning and diesels, fuel that's made from waste from McDonald's and other sources. Almost anything can be made into biodiesel. We also in Dayton, with federal funding, are working on turning coal to oil, such as which was done many years ago in Germany and some other countries. It's expensive now. The idea is to get the cost down. Fuel cells is probably the way to go in the long term, but the technology's not there. Electricity, we need to find better ways to generating it. Renewable sources, wind is proven to be workable in Ohio. There's some windmills now up in Bowling Green. We also have to pursue and help utility companies with the gasification of coal, so we can use Ohio coal, and I think nuclear eventually will be a good source of fuel, just as it is in almost all of Europe. And of course, we have to promote efficiency and conservation, because the cheapest kilowatt is the one that you don't use.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
This issue is not new to Ohio. In 1974, 1994, and again in 2003, state task forces developed specific energy policies and strategic recommendations of how to implement those policies. What Senator Schuler has just given you is essentially what is in his bill, State Bill 298. Now, he said that energy is very important. Senator Schuler's been on the Energy and Utilities Committee for about 4 years, okay? And after 3.5 years, well, 3.5 years on that committee, he introduced this bill. Now, let me tell you what that bill is. Basically, it's what you just heard. It's a bunch of things we'd like to do. It doesn't build on any of the 32 years of previous discussion. It doesn't contain any really concrete strategies, and it's virtually redundant to a far more comprehensive bill that was introduced by another senator, not even on the committee, a few months prior. Is this really a priority? I don't feel I'm getting my money's worth out of this committee. Do you? Look, rising energy costs are hurting everybody's budget. I'd like to build on some of the best ideas already developed by the experts. Now, these aren't rocket science, but they're a little more specific than what you just got. Provide tax incentives for homes and businesses to install renewable solar and geothermal energy systems. Work with Synergy to duplicate a program that proved very effective in Kentucky, where you would basically provide rebates to consumers to buy the new energy-efficient compact fluorescent light bulbs. We also need to get very serious about public transportation for commuters. Also, I'd mandate that any new publicly funded building meet very stringent energy conservation and green standards. And then finally, we do need to fund alternative fuel research in our universities. With our great agricultural base, we have the opportunity to be a leader, both in ethanol and soy-based biodiesel.
Thank you. Mr. Schuler, would you like 30 seconds?
Yes. I described what my bill is doing and was proposing, and we will pass that bill by the end of this year with very specific recommendations in each of those areas. In 2 minutes, you can't obviously explain a several-page bill in very much detail. We have passed several bills over the last few years. For example, one that requires every vehicle that's bought by the state of Ohio to be able to use E85, 85% ethanol. So that this ethanol that's made in Ohio from this corn grown in Ohio will be used in these state cars. In addition, we've passed a bill through the House. I'm amending it in the Senate. We'll pass it next year to require clean buildings to be done by any government building.
I guess all I have to say is that we've gotten very little very late. Now, as far as ethanol, I think everybody realizes right now that the ethanol that's being produced actually costs more energy to create than it delivers. We need to get a lot smarter than this. And if I'm up there, I'll attack this issue with real purpose.